Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. We still have some fall ball left in the season, so if you're looking to get some kids together, some stuff to do, check out Game7Baseball.com for some fall ball tournaments. Get yourself in there. As soon as Labor Day's over, I'm sure there's going to be some folks out there getting it done. So there you go. And today on the podcast, we have a special guest from all the way on the other side of the state, Jim Moran, who is the general manager of Fike American Legion Baseball. That's post 499 in Blue Springs, Missouri. Jim, thanks for joining the show, man.
My pleasure.
We've got it was kind of interesting. I was looking at your guys' website before we started here, and I'm just clicking through, checking out names and manager, the coaches and stuff. And you've got on the junior Fike team here, one of the coaches is Sean Rogan. And it was so funny. I'm texting my nephew who played Baldwin Legion, or played Legion baseball in Baldwin, Missouri, and his coach was Sean Rogan.
Wow.
Is that crazy? I took a picture and I said, "Hey, Tyler," I said, "did Sean move to Blue Springs, Missouri, man?"
Well, he's a University of North Carolina graduate, so I don't know where he stopped along the way.
That was crazy. That was interesting. So just the fun things of it. So we got Jim on. We wanted to talk some American Legion baseball. We had a great conversation a couple weeks ago, and we're starting to do this more. We had the state chairman, Tom Rhodes, along with Russ Clicker, who's the general manager of the St. Charles Post over here in St. Charles, Missouri. So let's talk a little baseball. You guys have been 30 years or more, I would say, right, in Legion baseball there.
Yeah, I've been connected with the team for over 40 years, and we've had a great sponsor for probably close to 45 or 50.
And I noticed that. Is that why it's called Fike Baseball?
Yeah, the company is called Fike Corporation. They're an international company. Their home base, their world headquarters, so to speak, is in Blue Springs. They have Fike Australia, Fike Europe, Fike Canada, Fike Far East, and they're dealing with suppression systems and rupture disc in the fire area.
Oh, wow. That that is nice. I like that. I mean, because I'm on your website, and I was looking at that, and I saw that world headquarters celebrating 75 years since 1945. So that's always great. I think that's one of the interesting things about American Legion baseball is, if you've got some companies or whatnot, veterans that are part of the American Legion, or just want to give back into the community that way, giving to veterans, I think it's a great way, and it keeps baseball in a very cost-effective way, correct?
Absolutely. We've been very fortunate to be part of the Fike program, and they support American Legion baseball in a number of ways. And I've just been blessed to have them part of our program for over 40 years since I've been with the program.
So, Jim, let's talk a little bit about your program. I would imagine it wasn't always Fike baseball, but, over the past, we know this, over the past so many years, certain areas of Missouri, American Legion hasn't done as well. Talk to us a little bit about the Kansas City area, how American Legion, what are you guys doing up there? How is it still making an impact in the Northwest?
Sure. Originally, we were Fike baseball. Then I got the Legion to be part of it. So technically, we're known as Post 499 Fike American Legion Baseball because we do have backing from our Legion post here in Blue Springs. There's been a number of teams in the area. There was 2 teams in Blue Springs till a couple years ago. Rod Sports A's had a very successful program. They won state a number of times. went to regionals and actually went to the World Series one year. But as a lot of things happened, their coaches got to a point where they needed younger coaches and they couldn't really find somebody to step in. Post 21 had a great program for years, as did Highboy, Post 340 with Kerry Stone. So there's been some changes in the landscape. We still are, for want of a better way to say it, hanging in there. We feel like getting the word out about Legion Baseball and what we can offer and the cost effectiveness is great for some kids who can't afford this mega bucks they're paying out to play on some of these other teams.
That is, and we had this. We've been talking a little bit, getting to know each other before we came on. I never like this. My podcast. I'm not a gotcha kind of guy. I don't. That ain't what this is about. I love to have conversations, talk to people, because this should be about. The podcast was always about how can we help? How can we bring awareness to the community about baseball, about things, what's happening in youth and prep baseball. And I think that's what this should be about. And we discuss these things. How does American Legion stay relevant? Because as we know, there will be people that'll just pay the big bucks. And money is like that. So how do you take that other side and approach and stay relevant in what's happening in youth sports and in high school sports?
Well, I think one of the key words you just used is community. American Legion Baseball is built on community awareness. Our base school is Blue Springs South High School. Now, we get kids from other schools, obviously, but we have to claim a base school. So Blue Springs is our priority, but we reach out to Fort Osage and Independence and other schools, Grain Valley, which is in Grain Valley, Missouri, because we have to stay under a certain enrollment number, grades 10 through 12, to put our team together. We don't charge a lot of money. We don't ask our kids to buy pants or jerseys or anything. It's all supplied by our team. And thanks to people like the Fike Corporation and the Legion Post and a couple of fundraisers we do, we want to make it relevant to anybody. And we feel like we offer a quality program. We have quality coaches on our staff. We have over 70% of our kids have gone on to play college baseball. It just depends on which level they're able to play at. We don't tell them they're going to be a D1 athlete if their best route is junior college. So, we want to be honest with them. And it's been tough the last couple of years because there's a lot of club teams and showcase teams. And, we're dealing with that, but I think we're dealing with it in the positive way.
There you go. I heard in there, and I got to go back to this, Fort Osage High School. If people are not aware, there's an older gentleman playing baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals that went to Fort Osage High School. Am I correct in that?
Oh, yeah. I had to coach against him.
What was that like, even then?
Well, first of all, Albert was a great guy. His personality was super. He was a man among boys. And I've seen him perform, and I've seen him hit balls farther than you should hit. I'll tell you one quick story. That we were playing at Chrysler Stadium in Independence, and we knew what Albert could do with a bat. And I told my pitcher, if he comes up and a base is open, we're walking him. And so we were, and Gary was the coach, and it was probably the sixth inning or so, and we were up by like 7 runs. My pitcher goes, Coach, can I throw to him this time? I said, if that's what you want to do. First pitch, it left the park, it went over the railroad tracks and hit a church. And he came in. He came in and looked at me and says, oh, now I understand. And that's with an aluminum bat, too. That's the other part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That ball was crushed.
Amen.
Oh, mercy. And I think that's interesting, too, is what people have not seen. There's a lot of talented baseball players that are playing today. And I think it's interesting when you look at that, the scope of probably 30 years old plus all played American Legion Baseball. I mean, I played American Legion Baseball. There's a lot of people that just have grown up in that. how are you addressing the things that when the kids are talking about college, the recruitment process, those types of things? What approach are you guys taking with the kids there?
Well, when we have our first meeting with the parents, the first thing we emphasize is grades in school. That's pretty important about where you're going to get to go to school. Um, like I said earlier, we have a complete coaching staff. We have an ex-major leaguer working with our pitchers. We have an ex-All-American catcher working with our catchers. We've got a young man who played for us, went on to play his career at Rockhurst University, dealing with kids. We've got some people at our junior team level who have coached for quite a while. We want to give them quality coaching. Um, and sometimes it's tough because the other teams have tryouts in July and they get these kids signed to contracts and there's a pressure to sign up. We can't have our tryouts until our season's over.
Right.
So sometimes the pool has shrunk a little bit. Um, but we feel like if we continue to put a product on the field that lets these kids know what it takes from teamwork, personal perseverance. We used to have a saying on one of our shirts that says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. We want
Right.
our kids to know if they continue to work, they will get better and good things happen down the road.
Jim, you've been around long enough. You know this as well as anybody. It's interesting to me that, there's talent and then there's talent, right?
Yes.
There are, it's like Albert Pujols and everybody else. And that's just honestly in those things, when you see that, that's kind of the way it is. There's a very small percentage of kids that really get to that high level. And I think it's interesting, and I think this gets lost sometimes. And how many young men are looking and they said D1, D1, D1. Well, there's plenty of Division II, very, very good Division II. And just over in your neck of the woods, Central Missouri is one of the best D2 programs in the country. And kids get drafted out of there all the time.
Yeah, I'm proud to be an alumni of CMS and was part of the baseball program in a very small deal, but saw some really good guys there. We've got some kids who have gone through our program, have gone through Rod's program. Speaking of, Albert from High Boy, Brian McRae played for us when he was just a 17-year-old. For those who don't know who Brian is, his dad's probably more famous because that's Hal McRae, and that's what the slide rule is called now, the McRae rule. We had a young man play in our wood bat tournament, a guy named Alex Gordon, multiple gold gloves, platinum gloves. And, so there's been a lot of talent in the area. Nick Tepish played here in Blue Springs. He had a short stint in the majors, but he had one. So there's opportunities for kids, but they can't always think about D1.
Mm-hmm.
D1 has 11 and a half scholarships a year, and they can only divide that up among so many kids. And so it's just letting them understand what's available. And I've got a sheet that I go over with my parents, the number of kids who play ball, the number of kids who go to a next level. And, if we think a kid can play ball, but he still needs to mature, we try to encourage him to go to a junior college because there's nothing wrong with a junior college.
No, and there's some really good ones here in the state. I know there's some up there. The one down here, Jeffco, Jefferson County.
Jeffco.
Yeah, a really solid program, have been for a long time. And I know there's Johnson County up there, but that's on Kansas side, isn't it?
That's okay. We let them count.
I think, Justin, didn't you guys play Maple Woods Community College, right? A couple times?
That's where Pujols played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my son, he played NAIA baseball, and in the fall, I think, leading up when you just get in games, you played Maplewood Community College. They just, to get games in and stuff. And so, there's all kinds of baseball. And there's another one that people don't think about in opportunities is NAIA baseball. There's a lot
of opportunities there, a lot. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of junior colleges in the area, and Crowder Junior College has
Right.
produced a lot of good athletes. And if I started naming them, I'd leave somebody out, which I'd feel bad about. But the Kansas side's got some quality programs. The Missouri side's got some quality programs. And a lot of times after their freshman year, a player will go, I'm not sure this is really what I want to do, but they want to get there and find out. And, there's some places that'll bring in 60, 70 freshmen on a JUCO program, and they find out who wants to play and who doesn't because it's a totally different atmosphere from what they had in high school.
I was having this conversation earlier with one of our contributors, Mitch Thomas. He's an instructor in this area. He played at Missouri Southern, and he runs a club, a youth baseball club and whatnot. Great guy, does it for the right reasons, really works hard to put his kids in an opportunity. And we were talking about, when is it that even if you want to play baseball, you said this to me in a conversation, a young man who played baseball, but he wanted to go to, I think it was the University of Missouri. It's where he always wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have
Yep.
opportunity to play baseball there, but said, that's fine. It's okay. It's where I want to go. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting thought process in that where, can a kid train and go through and play a high level of baseball just because he may want a chance to win a state high school championship?
I believe so. And the young man you're talking about, I remember his name was Matt, and we talked. He had a couple of scholarships to Benedictine and some other places, but he wanted to concentrate on the education part of it, and he wanted to go to Mizzou. Same thing with my oldest son. I mean, he loved baseball, but he wanted to go to school, what's now called Missouri State. And Keith Gutton accepted him into the program as a manager. He loved it. He wasn't going to play at that level. So when we talk about 70% of our kids, we're including those kids who played for us but went on a different direction. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that we know that, because if we don't understand education is paramount, and I think I talked to you the other day about a young man who played for us. His name was Reese Edmonds. He went on to pitch at Nebraska. And everybody said, well, Reese got a full ride to Nebraska. Yes, he did. Not as a pitcher. He got it because he had a 32 ACT. He was a good pitcher. He was a D1 pitcher, but most of the money came from the education part of it. And, we can't convince people of this, but if they'd spend as much time in the library as they do on the baseball field, they wouldn't have to worry about finances.
Agreed. That's just the short and tall of it. I think I want to go back to this point because I love the fact people don't realize he was accepted as one of the team managers in a D1 program. Mm-hmm. Keith Gutton, guys, the experience of that just at a level that you can put on a resume, you coming out of school with those things. And at that level, that's huge, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And just to regress a little bit, we talked about different routes. I had a guy named Danny McMurtry who played for us, wanted to go down to school at Springfield. Now, Danny's reasons were a little different. He did want to play baseball there, but that's where his girlfriend was going. We convinced him he needed to play at a JUCO. He played at Longview Community College, which no longer has a program. Mm-hmm. His junior year, he was on Keith Gutton's team as a transfer student. He earned the right to go to Springfield and play baseball. Those are the success stories that are there for the kids who are willing to work hard and try to live out their dream.
I love what you said right there. He earned the right. That's something I think we miss. And, when you talk about American Legion baseball, and this is something I think that is difficult, and I've brought this subject up, and I think this is real. When kids are coming out of the programs, and I'm the guy, and I've said this to you, I don't have a problem with clubs. I don't have a problem with American League. I don't have a problem with baseball, however it is. As long as we're doing it right, we're doing it for the right reasons, we're putting the kids in the places and whatnot, I think there are some things that we have to address. I really do. I think that there always will be when you get into situations like these, because sometimes things get a little kooky. And I think, It's just the nature of it. I think there's one of them is with the amount of teams and club teams and stuff, there's a little false sense that some of these kids playing on these teams go into high school thinking, I'm going to be the starter. Well, go to a tryout at Blue Springs High School. Yeah, you better be good, right? I mean, this is a team that was in the Final Four last year. They're going to have a really good shot to get back there. They got some guys. And I think it's, Grant Hollister and Tommy Lepore. And I think they got, I'm sure I'm missing a couple kids. That team is loaded. And you have some really talented baseball players. And some of these kids coming into that, I think it's kind of a rude awakening. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And kind of funny, I've known Tommy since he was a youngster because we went to the same church. He's a great athlete. And Blue Springs South and Ben Bear, they've got a great program going. But they're a large 6A school. They can't keep everybody who comes out, which makes some people upset. But it's kind of hard to argue with the way Ben's done stuff. And he teaches family first. He teaches team before me. And that falls right into what we believe in because we don't care about your individual stats. We don't care, if you can have a launch angle or we don't worry about that stuff. We use the eye test and the attitude test. Are you willing to work at it? And, you say that and you hear major leaguers talk and you hear football teams talk about, well, we're winning because we all get along. 2015, we won the State Legion tournament. I had a starting catcher from Blue Springs South, a first baseman who had been injured but played at Blue Springs South. My second baseman got cut his freshman and sophomore year. My shortstop was Grain Valley. My third baseman didn't make the high school team, and he was our number one pitcher. Didn't lose the game till we got to regionals. So there's a place for some of those kids who don't make the high school team if they're willing to work at it and be part of it. Matter of fact, the pitcher ended up spending 4 years at William Jewell. So don't give up if you don't make your high school team. Not making a high school team doesn't mean you're not any good. It just means you're not the top 15 that are there out of a school that has 1,400 kids in grades 10 through 12.
I love, and that is a realization. And I always say this, class 5, it depends on some of the schools. Class 6, it definitely, because man, you've got, we have some of these. We've talked with Coach Tony Perkins from Francis Howell. We've talked with Coach Eric Goff from over at Fort Zumwalt West, big programs and kids. And there are kids that are very good that are not getting playing time on those teams. And I was talking with Coach Perkins the other day, and he said, we talk to these kids and we say, can you handle it? If you can handle it, we want you. They don't mind you being there, but your attitude cannot be wrong. Because if your attitude goes bad, then, you might get an opportunity. And if you get an opportunity, what can you show? If your attitude's in the wrong place, you're going out there with the wrong, you're not going to prove anything. If you keep your attitude, you get an opportunity, you may not get off the field.
Absolutely right. And when I was the head coach of Fike for 30 plus years, I would tell our kids, if I can't tell a college coach that you are coachable, then I'm not going to tell him anything because there's kids coming behind you that need a chance to play. So if you're not coachable, college coaches don't want you. They want kids who are going to be teammates. Again, back to the we, not the me. And so your attitude in a pregame warm-up shows to a college coach who's in the stands watching you. I mean, they know before you ever take the field if they're interested in you. And some kids don't understand that format, but it's really, really important. Your attitude, your hustle, and your desire shows from the minute you walk into the dugout before a game starts.
Totally agree. I want to get your take on where's American Legion going and how do they become, and I hate to say, because they're not relevant, but they're not as relevant as they once were. And how do you bring those things back?
Well, as I mentioned to you when we talked the other day, the first thing we got to realize is sometimes where you're located. The state of Minnesota on their single A, double A, triple A rosters, they have over 375 teams. That's prevalent in the state of Minnesota. It's prevalent in North Dakota, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. Missouri has fallen off the last couple of years. I don't believe we're going anywhere. I can tell you that post 499 Fike's not going anywhere. We're going to do our best to rebuild the squad. Matter of fact, I'm excited. We have 2 junior teams this year, and hopefully that starts to build from the bottom. There are rough times. There are good times. We weren't always a state champion. I can remember 2 different times when I was a coach, we didn't win double-digit games. But that wasn't the reason we had Legion Baseball. So I think Legion Baseball attacks it from a couple ways. Number one, we teach them why American Legion isn't prevalent. There are gentlemen out there and ladies out there who are in our military, who have fought in wars or just been prevalent in peacetime, and they've put together this program for kids to understand. So we teach them Americanism. We teach them respect for the flag. We try to offer a program to them that's not expensive. And, we take care of some things, like I mentioned earlier. But the bottom line is, do you want to be part of a team? Do you want to understand why American Legion Baseball is prevalent in different parts of the country? Do you respect the flag? Do you respect the people who have gone before us to put this program on the field? And I'll be the first to tell you, I'm prejudiced. My dad fought in WW2 in the Pacific. He was a Legionnaire. I started playing Legion Baseball when I was in high school, and I've never lost the desire for Legion program to be good. And you say you don't follow stuff, you do. And I follow kids who have played for us, even if they don't know I do. So, I don't know what the bottom line is. I know we're working hard to let people know about the Legion program, about what it's all about, and get rid of some of the myths that we're gone, because we just had our true World Series. I mean, the top 8 teams in the country qualified in Shelby, North Carolina, 4,000 teams nationally. And once they won their state tournament, there was no expense to the players, the team of any kind. Transportation, meals, everything was paid for by the American Legion. And we're talking about millions of dollars.
And I'm sure there were scouts and people watching just, at those levels and those places. I mean, if you're playing in a high level tournament in a situation like that, there's going to be people watching, because if you get to those stages, your team is good, and that's because the players are good. I mean, that's as simple.
I totally agree with you. And I've had more than one college coach in this area tell me, if we know your kid is a D1 athlete, we know where he's at before he's a sophomore in high school. And they follow him. They don't go to a tournament to find him. They know where he's at. They go to watch him. Now, they may be there and find another kid, but, they're going to look for him, and they know where they're at early because of the way their coaches watch them. And, I mean, we've had college and pro scouts at our big wood bat tournament. And, there's been kids who have signed college scholarships from performing in July because the college coach hadn't filled his roster yet.
When you're talking about Legion Baseball, and, I was looking at your website, you have your coaches on there, you got some young guys there, you got some older gentlemen that are still in the program. And Jim, is that what you're looking for? I love the fact that you had guys that were with the program before coming back. Finding that passion is key to keeping these programs going, isn't it?
It's the passion of a coach who's willing to give his time and efforts to teach younger kids about the game in baseball and why it has been called the national pastime for so long. American Legion has its own spot in Cooperstown. And so that should speak volumes for itself.
It does, and I have seen it. You're right. I forgot about that, but they do. You're right. See, so, I mean, and that's the thing. American Legion has been such a part of the fabric of America, and the baseball program such a part of the pastime. I think I believe that it still needs to be part of the fabric of it. I've said this for time and time and time. when you're looking at baseball and when you're looking at these things and parents making decisions and whatnot, where are we going? What are we doing? And how are we doing it? And trying to break away from the norms and whatnot. Hey, if that club team is able to do that and there's kids playing at that level, great, fantastic. I love that.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with those things. And then American Legion, whatnot, I think it has its place, and there can be top level kids playing at those and what they do. I think it still should be with the parents as to what's the best fit. Where do we want to go? Where's our values? What do we do, and how do we do it? And I think those decisions sometimes get lost in the shuffle of, is my kid a Division I baseball player?
You're right. I think they have to decide what's best for them. And if you're not a good parent, you don't care what happens to your kid. So you have to respect the fact that parents are doing what they think is best for their son. We just want them to know that here, and I'm speaking about our program and others, we have a good quality program. We try to do what's right for the kids. And we ask three things. If you come to a game, you're either a player, you're a parent, or an umpire. Don't try to be 2 out of 3.
I'm gonna get you out of here on this. This is one of my pet peeves with all of this, and I talk about these things because I honestly think it was very detrimental, personally, especially because of the person that wrote it. And no offense to the Kansas City Royal fans, but Mike Matheny, some years back, wrote his manifesto, and it's been in a book and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And he makes this blanket statement about parents being the problem. And I always thought that was just bad. I really did. I always thought that was bad. And, you go sit over there, and I know programs today that, the parents, you don't talk, I don't, And that's where me as a parent, I wouldn't go to that program. Not that coach my son, but we're still going to have a conversation because I'm still going to be involved in my child's life. And I want to know what's being said, what's being talked about, who you are as a person, because that is a reflection of where those things go. And that's the reality of it. And I think this disconnect happened a little bit because parents became the problem. Are there problem parents? Absolutely.
Yes.
I will never. Are there problem coaches?
Yes.
Is it the majority of parents and coaches?
No.
And that's where we have to, I think, just realize some of these things. There's always, we're going to always have to tackle those issues. Agreed?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And I read Mike's contract for his team, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And we just have to understand, especially our program, our parents are very important to our program. We only have 2 things a year that we try to make money with. One, if you've never heard about it, you ought to look into it, and that's mouse races. People have more fun there than you can ever believe.
I've been to mouse. They're fun.
They're awesome. And the other is the tournaments we have. Our parents have to work at our tournaments, whether it's at the gate, T-shirts, concession stand, announcing, running a scoreboard. Without your parents, your program cannot succeed. And so, we try to make sure they understand we want you to be part of the Fike family. And therefore, you're going to buy into what we're doing and understand if you have a problem, your son doesn't think he's getting enough playing time, your son goes to the head coach, not you. It's not your job. And if he's not happy, then the parents can schedule a meeting with the coach. And of course, sometimes it comes all the way to the general manager, which I try to refer them back to the coach again because, that's their job. I've got good guys there, and I don't want to tell them what to do or how to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It looks like you did. And I love the fact that I saw a mix. You have a mix there of the young guys, the older gentlemen. And I think that's great because it can work through those things in your coaching staff, and it should. There's always somebody, there that's see a little more seasoned, been through it, and can help those younger guys, and then they can take the program and keep moving the program forward. I think that's great. I think that's the way it should be, personally. So, Jim Moran, folks. Jim, I appreciate it. That was a fun conversation, man. I enjoyed that.
Guys, I enjoyed talking with you, and I hope it was able to clear up a few of the clouds around.
You got to come back and chat with us, man.
I'd love to, because I'm definitely a big proponent of Legion baseball.
There you go. We'll get you back on the show, talk. I'd love to talk, as we're going through these things, and maybe even catch up. I'm sure we'll see you in the season. Love to get your schedule. We can catch up and see. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Jim Moran, folks. That is Fike Baseball, Post 499 in Blue Springs, Missouri. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Remember, if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button, hit the dinger, because that's what we do. We hit dingers. And, that'll get you all your notifications for upcoming episodes. Everybody, have a great day in the Lord. And all you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and you hitters, hit them where they ain't. And we'll see you next time.